The planet Kethvara had once been beautiful. Its cities were made of crystal that sang in the wind. Gardens grew everywhere with plants that glowed soft blue and green in the dark. The people who lived there were called the Velani. They had smooth blue skin and big golden eyes. They were peaceful people who loved art and music and growing things. But that was before the Skaroth came. Now the crystal cities lay broken. The singing towers were silent. The glowing gardens were dead and black. Smoke rose from the ruins where families had lived for hundreds of years. The Skaroth were warriors who took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not use. They had come to Kethvara 3 days ago with their big ships and powerful weapons dotting the ruins of what had been the capital city of Nethys. A small girl named Zara huddled in a dark corner. She was only 7 years old. Her blue skin was dirty and cut from crawling through broken glass and twisted metal. Her golden eyes were wide with fear and sadness. She had not eaten in 2 days. She had not slept well since the attack began. Zara remembered when the Skaroth ships first appeared in the sky. They were huge and black and made terrible sounds. Her mother had grabbed her hand and run with her toward their home. Her father had stayed behind to help other people escape. That was the last time she saw him dot at their house. Her mother had pushed Zara into a small space under the floor. It was dark and cramped, but it was hidden. Her mother had kissed her forehead and said the words that Zara now repeated to herself every hour. If something happens, stay hidden. Someone will come for you. Then her mother had gone outside to look for father. The sounds of fighting had grown louder. Then everything had gone quiet. Zara had waited in that dark space for a whole day before. She dared to come out. When she did, she found her house was broken. The walls had holes in them. The roof was mostly gone. There was no sign of her mother or father. She had called for them, but only heard the wind blowing through the ruins. Since then, she had been hiding and moving from place to place. The Skaroth soldiers walked through the ruins looking for people like her. She could hear their heavy boots and their rough voices. They spoke in a language that sounded like growling. When they found Velani people, bad things happened. Zara had seen some of these things from her hiding places. She tried not to think about them. The Velani people had a special ability. They could feel what other people were thinking and feeling. It had always been useful for understanding each other and working together. Now it helped Zara stay alive. She could sense when the Skaroth were coming along before she could see or hear them. Their minds felt angry and cruel and empty of kindness, not far above the ruined planet. A human ship moved through space. It was called the U.E.'s Liberty. Inside the ship, Captain Jake Morrison stood looking at reports on his computer screen. The report said that Kethvara was lost. The Galactic Council had decided there was nothing they could do to help. Too many Skaroth ships. Too much danger. The few rescue ships that had tried to land had been shot down. But Morrison's science officer, Lieutenant Amy Brooks, had found something interesting. Their long-range sensors had picked up faint life signs in the ruins of Nethys. Not many, but some. Somewhere down there, people were still alive. Morrison read the official orders again. His ship was supposed to stay in space and watch for Skaroth movements. They were not supposed to land. They were not supposed to risk their ship and crew for what the council called a lost cause. Morrison was a good officer. He had followed orders for 20 years in the human space navy, but he was also a father. He had 2 children back on Earth. When he looked at those life signs on the scanner, he thought about his own kids. He thought about them scared and alone, and waiting for someone to come help them. He called his senior staff to the bridge. There was Lieutenant Brooks with her short red hair and quick mind. There was Chief Engineer Ben Clark, who kept the ship running. There was Dr. Lisa Kane, who took care of everyone when they got hurt. And there was Staff Sergeant Alex Carter. Carter was different from the others. He was a Marine, not Navy. He was big and strong with arms covered in scars from old fights. His job was to lead soldiers into dangerous places. But Morrison knew something else about Carter. The tough Marine had a soft heart, especially when it came to children. Morrison showed them the sensor readings. He told them about the life signs in the ruins. He explained what the official orders said. Then he asked them a simple question. What should they do? Nobody spoke for a long moment. Then Carter stepped forward. His voice was quiet but firm. Captain, those readings show children down there. I can tell by the size and movement patterns. If we don't go get them, nobody will. Dr. Kane nodded. The Galactic Council gave up too easy. Just because something is dangerous doesn't mean it's impossible. Lieutenant Brooks pulled up more detailed scans. I can get us down there, she said. The Scaroth ships are busy on the other side of the planet. We have a window. Chief Clark crossed his arms. Ship can handle it. Engines are running perfect. Morrison looked at his team. These were good people, brave people. People who understood that sometimes doing the right thing was more important than following rules. He made his decision. We go down. Carter, pick your best people. Brooks, find us a landing spot. King, get your medical gear ready. Clark, give me everything the engines have got. As the Liberty changed course toward the planet, Zara sat in her hiding place in the ruins. She was so tired and hungry and scared. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Someone will come for you. But with each hour that passed, those words seemed less and less true. She did not know that high above her, a ship full of humans was coming. She did not know that these strange beings from another world had decided to risk everything to save people they had never met. She did not know that her long wait in the darkness was almost over. The Crystal City sang no more, but help was finally coming. Zara woke up cold and shaking. She had found a new hiding place in what used to be a school. The roof was gone, but 3 walls still stood. Broken desks and chairs were scattered everywhere. She had made a nest behind the biggest pile of debris, where she could not be seen from outside, that her stomach hurt from hunger. The last food she had eaten was a piece of fruit she found 2 days ago. It had been old and soft, but she ate it anyway. Now there was nothing left. She had looked through all the buildings near her hiding place. The Scaroth had taken or destroyed everything they could find. Water was easier to find. Rain had fallen yesterday and filled some broken containers. The water tasted strange and had bits of dust floating in it, but it was better than nothing. Zara drank it slowly to make it last longer. She missed her parents so much it made her chest ache. Her mother used to make sweet cakes that smelled like flowers. Her father would tell her stories about the old days when the Valani first learned to grow the glowing plants. At night, they would all sit together, and her parents would sing the traditional songs. Their voices would blend together in harmony, while Zara listened and felt safe and loved. Now, there was only silence and the sound of wind blowing through broken walls. The worst part was the loneliness. The Valani were used to being connected to other minds. They shared feelings and thoughts like humans shared conversation. But now Zara could sense no other Valani anywhere. The familiar warm presence of her people was gone. Instead, there was just emptiness and the cold, angry minds of the Scaroth. She could feel them even when they were far away. Their thoughts were like sharp metal cutting through her mind. They thought about violence and taking things and hurting people. They enjoyed causing pain. It made Zara sick to sense their minds, but it also kept her alive. She always knew when they were coming. The Scaroth looked like giant lizards that walked on 2 legs. They were taller than Valani adults, and much stronger. Their skin was covered in hard scales that could stop most weapons. They had long claws and sharp teeth. When they spoke, their voices sounded like rocks, grinding together. Their leader was called War Commander Thax. He had set up his headquarters in what used to be the royal palace. From there he sent out patrols to search every building in the Nai city. They were looking for Valani survivors to capture or kill. They also took anything valuable they could find. Zara had seen some of these patrols from her hiding places. The Scaroth soldiers moved in groups of 4 or 5. They carried big weapons that could blow holes through walls. They would kick down doors and tear apart rooms looking for people. When they found families trying to hide, Zara had to cover her ears and close her eyes. She knew that many Velani had tried to escape when the attack first started. Some had running ships that could fly between the stars. But the Scaroth had destroyed the spaceport early in the battle. The few ships that got away were shot down by the big Scaroth. Warships waiting in space. The Galactic Council was supposed to help when things like this happened. There were laws about attacking peaceful worlds. There were treaties that said bigger civilizations would protect smaller ones. But Zara had heard the adult Velani talking before the attack. They said the council was slow to act. They said help might not come in time. Now, Zara was starting to understand that help might not come at all. She tried to remember her mother's words. Someone will come for you. But who would come? The other Velani were dead or captured or hiding like she was. The Galactic Council seemed to have forgotten about them. The neighboring star systems were too afraid of the Scaroth to send help. Maybe her mother had been wrong. Maybe no one was coming. High above the planet, the human ship UE's Liberty moved carefully through space. Captain Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the screens that showed Scaroth ship positions. The enemy had dozens of warships circling Kethvara. Most were concentrated on the far side of the planet, where some Val-Ani military bases were still fighting. Lieutenant Brooks had found them a path through the enemy ships. It would require perfect timing and a lot of luck, but it could work. The Liberty would have to fly low and fast and land quickly before the Scaroth noticed them. Staff Sergeant Carter had picked his team. There was Corporal Ryan Davis, who was young but brave and good with heavy weapons. There was Private Kelly Shaw, who could move quietly and spot danger before anyone else. There was Private Mike Chun, who knew how to fix almost anything and could handle explosives. And leading them all was Carter himself, a man who had saved civilians in a dozen war zones. Dr. Kane had prepared her medical supplies. She packed extra food and water and medicines that would work on Valani biology. She also brought toys and games for children. She knew from experience that scared kids needed comfort as much as they needed medical care. The team gathered in the shuttle bay. Their ship was small and fast, designed to get in and out of dangerous places quickly. Carter checked everyone's equipment while Brooks programmed their flight path. Morrison came down to see them off. He looked each person in the eye and shook their hands. He knew he was asking them to risk their lives for people they had never met. He knew that if something went wrong, he might never see any of them again. Carter saluted his captain. "We'll bring them home, Sir." Morrison nodded. "I know you will." As the shuttle launched toward the planet, Zara sat in her hiding place, watching the sun set. The sky turned from blue to purple to black. Stars appeared one by one. She had always loved the stars before. Now they just reminded her how big and empty the universe was. Her mother had taught her the names of the constellations. There was the singing bird and the dancing tree and the laughing child. But tonight the stars seemed cold and distant. They offered no comfort to a small girl alone in the ruins. She closed her eyes and tried to sense any friendly minds nearby. She reached out as far as she could with her telepathic abilities. But there was nothing. Just the ever-present anger of the Scaroth, patrols, and the terrible emptiness where her people used to be. A sound made her freeze. Heavy footsteps on broken concrete. Rough voices speaking the growling Scaroth language. A patrol was coming near. Her hiding place. Zara made herself as small as possible behind the pile of debris and tried not to breathe. The Scaroth soldiers walked past the broken school. One of them kicked at some rubble. Another poked his weapon into dark corners. But they did not find her. After what felt like hours, they moved on to search other buildings. When she was sure they were gone, Zara began to cry. She cried quietly so no one would hear her. She cried for her parents and her home, and her people. She cried because she was hungry and cold and afraid. Most of all, she cried because she was starting to believe the awful truth that no one was coming to save her. She was going to die alone in these ruins, just like everyone else. Her mother had been wrong, but far above her head, a small human shuttle was entering the planet's atmosphere. Inside, Carter and his team checked their weapons and prepared for landing. They had detected the life signs. They knew approximately where the survivors were hiding. They were coming. Zara just didn't know it yet. The human shuttle landed in the ruins just as the first light of dawn appeared in the sky. Carter and his team moved quickly and quietly through the broken streets. Their armor was dark and made no sound as they walked. They carried scanners that could detect life signs through walls and debris. Zara had barely slept during the night. Every small sound made her afraid that the Scaroth were coming back. Now she huddled in her hiding place as gray morning light filtered through the holes in the walls around her. She was so tired and hungry that everything seemed like a dream. Then she felt something that made her freeze with shock. New minds had entered the area. But these were not like any minds she had ever sensed before. They were not Villani with their warm, gentle thoughts. They were not Scaroth with their cold, cruel anger. These minds were something completely different. Thoughts she sensed were focused and determined, but not evil. There was strength in these minds, but also kindness. There was readiness for violence, but also a deep wish to protect others. Zara had never felt anything like it. Carter stopped his team at the edge of what had been a market square. His scanner showed the strongest life sign was coming from a damaged school building about 50 meters away. The reading was small and weak, probably a child. He hand-signaled to his team to spread out and approach carefully. Private Shaw moved to the left to watch for Scaroth patrols. Corporal Davis took position to the right with his heavy weapon ready. Private Chun stayed with Carter as they moved toward the school. Dr. Kane followed close behind with her medical kit. Zara pressed herself deeper into her hiding place as the strange minds came closer. She could sense their alien thoughts more clearly now. One of them was thinking about his own children back on some distant world. Another was remembering a time when she had helped scared refugees. A third was planning how to get everyone to safety. These beings, whatever they were, had come here to help people. The realization hit Zara like a physical blow. After days of believing no one cared, someone had actually come. Carter reached the school building and looked through a hole in the wall. His scanner said the life sign was somewhere in the main room behind a pile of broken furniture. He knew that approaching a scared alien child required patience and care. He removed his helmet so the child could see his face. His features were strange by Villani standards. His skin was tan instead of blue. His eyes were brown instead of gold. His face had hair growing on it. But his expression was gentle, and his thoughts were kind. Carter spoke in a soft voice, even though he knew the child would not understand his language. "Hey there. I know you're scared. We're here to help you. You're safe now." Zara heard the strange sounds of his speech. The words meant nothing to her, but the tone was gentle and reassuring. Through her telepathic senses, she could feel that he truly wanted to help her. She had not felt such kindness from any mind since her parents were taken. Dr. Kane joined Carter. At the opening in the wall, she activated a small device that would translate languages. The device needed a few minutes to analyze speech patterns and build a translation matrix. While they waited, Kane pulled out some food packets and placed them where the child could see them. The smell of real food made Zara's empty stomach cramp with hunger. It had been so long since she had eaten anything substantial. But she was still too afraid to come out of hiding. What if this was some kind of scare-off trick? Carter sat down on a piece of broken concrete to make himself seem less threatening. He opened one of the food packets and ate a bite to show it was safe. Then, he set it down and pushed it toward the pile of debris where the child was hiding. The translation device finally activated with a soft beep. Carter tried speaking again. "Can you understand me now? My name is Alex. I'm a soldier, but I'm not here to hurt you. We came to find survivors and take them somewhere safe." Zara understood the words this time. The voice was deep and rough, but patient. She could sense through her telepathic abilities that every word was true. This being called Alex really had come to help her. But why would aliens from another world care about the Velani? She stayed hidden, but spoke in a whisper that was barely audible. "Why did you come?" Carter's face lit up when he heard her voice. "Because no child should be left alone in a place like this. Because it's the right thing to do. Because where we come from, we don't abandon people who need help." Dr. Kane moved closer and spoke in a gentle tone. "We're called humans. We heard that bad things happened here, and we came to see if anyone needed help. Are you hurt? Are you hungry?" Zara's stomach rumbled loudly at the mention of food. She had not realized how weak she had become until she tried to move. Her legs shook and her vision was blurry from hunger and dehydration. "I haven't eaten in 2 days," she whispered. Carter immediately opened another food packet and a water bottle. He placed them as close to her hiding spot as he could reach. "Please come out. We have plenty of food and clean water. We have medicine if you're hurt." But Zara still hesitated. The Scaraf had taught her that the universe was full of creatures. Who would hurt the weak? How could she trust these strangers, even if they seemed kind? Private Chun had been watching the approaches to the school. Now he came over to Carter and spoke quietly. "Sergeant, we've got Scaraf patrols moving this way. 3 groups converging on our position. We need to move soon." Carter nodded, but did not take his eyes off the hiding spot. "I know you're afraid. I would be afraid too. But there are bad soldiers coming this way. If we don't leave now, they'll find all of us. Please trust us." Zara could sense the approaching Scaroth mines in the distance. Their thoughts were filled with the usual anger and cruelty. They had detected something unusual in this area and were coming to investigate. If they found the humans, there would be fighting. If they found her, she would die. She made a decision. That took all her courage. Slowly, carefully, she crawled out from behind the pile of debris. When Carter and Dr. Kane saw her, they both smiled with relief and sadness. Relief that she was alive. Sadness at how small and frightened she looked. Zara was indeed small, even for a 7-year-old Velani. Her blue skin was dirty and marked, with small cuts. Her golden eyes were huge in her thin face. Her clothes were torn and stained. She moved like an old person, slowly and carefully, as if every step hurt. Carter knelt down so he would not tower over her. "Hi, Zara. That's a beautiful name. I'm Alex, like I said. This is Dr. Kane. She's going to make sure you're okay." Dr. Kane approached slowly with her medical scanner. She ran it over Zara's body while explaining what she was doing. "You're dehydrated and malnourished, but otherwise healthy. Here, drink this slowly. The water was the cleanest and purest Zara had tasted in days. The food packet contained things she had never eaten before, but they tasted wonderful. As she ate and drank, she felt a little stronger. The sound of Skaroth. Voices grew louder. Private Shaw's voice crackled through their communication system. "Sergeant, they're less than 2 blocks away. We need to go now." Carter looked at Zara. "We have to leave this place. Will you come with us?" "I promise we'll keep you safe." Zara looked at these strange aliens who had risked their lives to find her. Through her telepathic senses, she could feel their genuine care and determination. For the first time in days, she felt a tiny spark of hope. She nodded and reached out her small hand. Carter took it gently in his much larger one. Together, they stood up and prepared to leave the ruins where she had hidden alone for so long. She still did not know if she could truly trust these humans, but she knew one thing for certain. Someone had finally come for her, just like her mother had promised. She was no longer alone. The Skaroth patrol found them just as they were leaving the school building. Carter heard the heavy footsteps and rough voices before he saw the enemy soldiers. He quickly pushed Zara behind a concrete wall and signaled to his team to take cover. 3 Skaroth warriors came around the corner of a damaged building. They were massive creatures, each one nearly 8 feet tall. Their dark green scales gleamed in the morning light. They carried plasma rifles that could burn through metal. When they saw the humans, they let out roaring sounds that made the ground shake. The battle began instantly. Corporal Davis opened fire with his heavy weapon, sending bolts of energy that struck the lead Skaroth in the chest. The creature stumbled, but its thick scales absorbed most of the damage. It raised its own weapon and returned fire. Private Shaw moved quickly to a flanking position. She was small and fast, able to dart between pieces of rubble while firing precise shots. Her training had taught her to aim for the weak spots where Skaroth scales were thinner. Private Chun threw a grenade that exploded near the enemy soldiers. The blast knocked them down, but did not kill them. Skaroth were incredibly tough and hard to stop. Chun immediately moved to a new position before they could target him. Carter stayed near Zara, firing his rifle while keeping his body between her and the enemy. Through her telepathic abilities, Zara could sense his thoughts. He was not thinking about winning the fight or saving himself. He was thinking only about protecting her Dr. Kane, crouched beside them with her medical kit ready. She was not a soldier, but she had been in combat zones before. She knew how to stay calm under fire and be ready to help wounded people. The fighting was loud and violent. Energy weapons fired back and forth, creating bright flashes and burning holes in walls. The smell of melted metal and burned concrete filled the air. Pieces of debris flew everywhere as shots missed their targets and hit buildings instead. One of the Skaroth warriors charged toward Carter's position. The creature was wounded, but still dangerous. It raised its clawed hands to strike at the human. Soldier. Carter rolled to the side and fired 3 quick shots into the creature's neck, where the scales were softer. The Skaroth fell to the ground and did not get up. Private Shaw managed to get behind the second Skaroth. She fired multiple shots into its back before it could turn around. The creature roared in pain and anger, but kept fighting until Chun's second grenade finished it off. The third Skaroth warrior was smarter than the others. It took cover behind a large piece of rubble and fired carefully aimed shots at the humans. Corporal Davis tried to circle around, but the creature anticipated his move and nearly hit him with a plasma bolt. Carter realized they needed to end this fight quickly. More Skaroth patrols would be drawn by the sound of combat. If they got surrounded, they would all be killed, including Zara. He made a dangerous decision. He ran straight at the remaining Skaroth while firing his weapon continuously. The creature focused all its attention on him, trying to bring down the charging human. This gave Shaw the opening she needed to get a clean shot at the creatures. Head, the last Skaroth warrior, fell to the ground with a crash that shook the nearby buildings. Silence returned to the ruins, except for the sound of the humans, breathing heavily and checking their equipment. Corporal Davis had been hit by a plasma bolt during the fight. The shot had burned through his armor and left a painful wound on his arm. Dr. Kane immediately began treating him with quick-healing medical gel and painkillers. Carter knelt down beside Zara, who had pressed herself against the wall during the battle. She was shaking with fear and shock. Through her telepathic senses, she had felt the Skaroth warriors dying. Even though they were cruel enemies, experiencing death was traumatic. For someone so young. "Are you hurt?" Carter asked gently. Zara shook her head, but continued shaking. The humans had fought with incredible skill and bravery to protect her. She had never seen anything like it. The Vailani were peaceful people who avoided violence. But these humans were warriors who could be gentle with children and deadly too. Enemies at the same time. Private Chun checked his scanner and reported bad news. More Skaroth are coming from 3 different directions. We have maybe 10 minutes before they surround us. Dr. Kane finished treating Davis's wound and helped him stand up. He could still fight, but he was weakened by blood loss and pain. Their situation was getting more dangerous by the minute. Carter looked at his team and then at Zara. They had found her and saved her from the ruins. But now they had to get her to safety before more enemies arrived. The problem was that Zara was too weak from hunger and exhaustion to move quickly. He made another decision that showed who humans really were. Even though carrying Zara would slow him down and make him an easier target. Even though it would put his entire team at greater risk. Even though military tactics said he should prioritize the mission over one person. Carter knelt down in front of the small alien girl. Zara, he said in a gentle voice. I know you're scared and tired, but we need to move fast to get away from here. Would it be okay if I carried you? Zara looked up at this strange human warrior. He was big and strong and covered in armor. His face had scars from old battles. His hands held weapons that could kill, but his eyes were kind and his voice was soft when he spoke to her. Through her telepathic abilities, she could sense that he genuinely cared about her well-being. She nodded and raised her small arms toward him. Carter lifted her up carefully, as if she were made of fragile crystal. Zara was so light that he could barely feel her weight. She was just a tiny child who had been through horrible things and needed someone to take care of her. As he held her against his armored chest, something amazing happened. All the fear and loneliness and despair that Zara had been holding inside for days suddenly came pouring out. She began to cry for the first time since her parents were taken. The tears ran down her blue cheeks as she pressed her face against Carter's shoulder. She cried for her mother and father who were gone. She cried for her home that was destroyed. She cried for all the Vailani people who had died. But mostly she cried with relief, because someone had finally come to save her. Carter felt her tiny body shaking with sobs, and his own eyes became wet. He had seen many terrible things in his years as a soldier, but few things affected him as much as a child's tears. He held her securely and whispered comforting words while his team prepared to move. You're safe now, he told her. We're going to take you away from this place. You'll never have to hide alone again. Through her telepathic connection, Zara could feel the emotions of all the humans around her. Dr. King was thinking about her own daughter back on Earth. Shaw was remembering when she had helped evacuate children from a war zone. Corporal Davis was fighting through his pain because he wanted to protect her. Private Chun was calculating the best route to keep them all safe. These alien beings from a distant world had risked everything to save one small Vailani girl. They had fought deadly enemies and put themselves in danger for someone they had never met before. Zara did not understand why they would do such a thing, but she was grateful beyond words. The sound of approaching Skaroth patrols grew louder. Carter adjusted his grip on Zara and checked his weapon. His team formed a protective circle around them and prepared to move toward their ray. Extraction point dot. As they began to run through the ruins, Zara held tight to Carter's armor and felt something she had not felt since the invasion began. She felt hope. These humans had come across the stars to find her. They had fought for her. They had lifted her up when she could not stand. Maybe her mother had been right after all. Someone had come for her. Carter ran through the ruined streets while holding Zara close to his chest. His team moved around them in a protective formation. Private Shaw led the way, using her skills to find the safest path through the debris. Private Chun and Corporal Davis covered the rear, watching for pursuing Skaroth patrols. Dr. Kane stayed close to Carter in case Zara needed medical attention. The small Velani girl had stopped crying, but she still clung tightly to Carter's armor. Through her telepathic abilities, she could sense the minds of the Skaroth soldiers who were hunting them. The enemy was angry and frustrated. They knew the humans were in the area, but they could not find them. Zara realized she could help. She had lived in these ruins for days and knew them better than anyone. She also had the advantage of being able to sense Skaroth thoughts from a distance. "Wait," she whispered to Carter. "There are 5 soldiers hiding behind the tall building with the broken tower. If you go that way, they will see you." Carter immediately signaled to his team to stop. "Shaw, there are enemies ahead. The girl says 5 of them behind the building." With the damaged tower. Shaw checked her scanner and nodded. "She's right. I'm reading 5 life signs in that exact location." How did she know that? Dr. Kane smiled. "The Velani are telepathic. She can sense their minds." This changed everything. With Zara's help, they could avoid Skaroth patrols instead of fighting them. Carter looked down at the small girl in his arms. "Can you tell us which way is safe to go?" Zara concentrated, reaching out with her mental abilities. She had never used her telepathy to help soldiers before, but it felt good to finally do something useful. "Turn left at the fountain," she said. "Then go straight until you reach the place where they sold flowers. After that, turn right, and you will reach your flying machine." Following Zara's directions, the team moved quickly through the ruins without encountering any enemies. Her telepathic senses guided them around every Skaroth patrol. What should have been a dangerous journey became much easier with her help. As they traveled, Zara began to feel stronger. The food and water Dr. Kane had given her was helping her body recover. More importantly, being surrounded by people who cared about her was healing her spirit. She had been alone for so long that she had forgotten what it felt like to be protected. Dr. Kane walked beside Carter and talked quietly to Zara. She taught her simple English words and phrases. She explained where they were going and what would happen next. She showed Zara pictures of Earth and told her about human children. "Do human children play games like Velani children?" Zara asked. "Oh yes," Dr. Kane replied. "Children everywhere like to play and learn and have fun. When we get you to safety, we'll make sure you have toys and games and other children to play with." The other team members also tried to make Zara feel welcome. Private Shaw showed her a small music player and let her listen to human songs. The melodies were different from Velani music, but they were beautiful in their own way. Private Chun performed simple magic tricks that made Zara laugh for the first time in days. Even Corporal Davis, despite his wound, made an effort to be kind. He shared his emergency chocolate ration with her and told her jokes that the translator device converted into Velani humor. Carter felt the small girl relaxing in his arms as she interacted with his team. Her telepathic abilities allowed her to sense that these humans genuinely cared about her. They were not just following orders or doing their duty. They had chosen to risk their lives because they believed every child deserved to be safe and loved. When they finally reached the landing site, the human shuttle was waiting for them. The pilot, Lieutenant Brooks, had kept the engines running and the weapons ready in case Skarath forces attacked. She had also prepared a comfortable seat, with soft blankets for their young passenger Dot. As Carter carried Zara up the shuttle ramp, she looked back at the ruins of her city. Everything she had ever known was destroyed. Her parents were gone. Her people were scattered or dead. Her beautiful world was now a place of darkness and fear, but she was no longer alone. The shuttle lifted off and headed toward the stars. A small window. Zara watched her planet grow smaller and smaller until it was just a point of light. Dr. Kane sat beside her and held her hand while explaining what would happen next. "We're going to take you to our ship," she said. "It's big and safe and has everything you need. Then we'll take you to a place where other Velani survivors are living. You'll have a new home and people to take care of you, Dot. What about you?" Zara asked. "Will you stay with me?" Carter knelt down beside her seat. "We'll stay with you as long as you need us to. That's a promise." When they reached the UE's Liberty, Captain Morrison was waiting in the shuttle bay. He took one look at the small alien girl, and his expression softened. He had daughters of his own, and he understood what this child had been. "Through Dot, welcome aboard," he said gently through the translator. "You're safe now." The ship's crew had prepared special quarters for Zara, with furniture sized for a child. They had stocked it with food she could eat and clothes that would fit her. Most importantly, they had made sure she would not be alone. Dr. Kane would stay nearby, and Carter would visit her every day. Over the following weeks, as the Liberty traveled to the Velani refugee colony, Zara slowly began to heal. She learned more English words and made friends with the human crew members. She helped in the ship's garden, using her knowledge of growing things to tend the plants. She even started to smile and laugh again, but the most important part of her recovery was simply knowing that someone had cared enough to come for her. These humans had traveled across the galaxy and risked their lives for one small girl they had never met. They had shown her that even in a universe that could be cruel and frightening, there were still people who would fight to protect the innocent. Years later, when Zara had grown up and become an ambassador between the Velani refugees and their human protectors, she would often tell the story of her rescue. She would speak to groups of different alien species and explain why humanity had earned the respect and friendship of so many civilizations. "They came for me when no one else would." She would say I was just one small child on a dead world. I had no value to them, except that I was alive and needed help. But that was enough. They crossed space itself because they believed every life matters. That is who humans are. The story of Zara's rescue became famous throughout human space and beyond. It was told as an example of human values and what made them different from other species. Some aliens were stronger. Some were smarter. Some lived longer. But humans had something special that others recognized and admired. They had hearts that could not ignore suffering. They had courage that made them face any danger to help others. They had a belief that protecting the innocent was more important than following rules or staying safe. Captain Morrison faced a court-martial for disobeying orders when he authorized the rescue mission. When the military judges asked him why he had risked his ship and crew for one alien child, his answer became legendary. "Because that's what humans do," he said. "We don't leave children behind. Ever." The charges against Morrison were dropped. Instead, he received a medal for exemplifying the best qualities of humanity. The rescue mission was officially recognized as a heroic action that brought honor to the human fleet. But for Zara, the most important outcome was much simpler. She had learned that her mother's words were true after all. Someone had come for her. Someone had lifted her up when she could not stand. Someone had shown her that even in the darkest times, hope could still be found. The universe was vast and often dangerous. There were species like the Skaroth who took what they wanted and destroyed what they could not use. But there were also species like humanity who traveled to distant worlds for no reason except that children needed help. As long as there were beings like that in the galaxy, Zara knew there would always be light in the darkness. There would always be someone willing to come when others were in need. There would always be hope.